Kia ora everyone. Just wanted to welcome everyone here tonight with our kōrero with Mana Newton, aka Lincoln Barnes, for those that are looking at his alias on his LinkedIn. Yeah, my name is Hakiwai. It is not Shantae Bodika. So we're both on sharing machines. But anyway, whānau, we're going to kick off. I'm going to hand it over to Johnny to just open us up with a quick karakia and we'll kick off into it. Okay, koe, Johnny.
Kia ora whānau. E te atua, mai ka mātou tō maramatanga tō rangi Māori e tō kaha me tō aroha mō tēnei rā. Āmene.
Āmene. Well, kia ora whānau. We're just going to do a quick round with our Poari, and we'll do some housekeeping, and then we're going to get into it. So, Rena Takiwai, here in Ngāti Kahungunu, rongo mawahine tūwhare tō tainui, Ngāti Parau. I'll hand it over to Tuari.
Kia ora koutou te whānau, ko Tuari tōku ingoa, ngā puhi, ngāi tahu, Ngāti Hāmoa, and all the rest. Looking forward to hearing what Mana's got to have a kōrero about tonight. It's going to be really cool. Looking forward to all the questions coming. And remember, don't be shy. Awesome Poari, kia ora ren, no mahara mai e te tuakana, and kia ora.
Kia ora, Uncle Pete.
Kia ora mana, thanks for coming tonight, mate. Pete, born in the South Island. As I tell everyone, I failed the HTK Team test. But happy to be part of the team. I'm a business advisor and consultant. I've had a bit of experience. I'm only 29, but I've worked hard, obviously. But no, proud to be here, mate, and looking forward to your kōrero tonight.
Good on, Pete. We have Vern and Johnny.
Sweet. I'll jump in there. Hey, Vern Holden with HTK Advisors. Ko Taranaki te Mona, ko te Aotea o te iwi. But yeah, down here in Christchurch, loving these Poaris. Keen to listen in and hear what you're going to say, Mana. Cheer up.
Kia ora, Johnny.
Cool. Kia ora whānau. Ko Johnny Aranga taku ingoa. Ko Tuhoi taku iwi no o tautai ahau. Johnny, one of the business advisors for HTK Group. I just want to welcome you, Mana. Thanks for jumping on and agreeing to jump on, bro, at short notice. Really looking forward to the kōrero tonight. But yeah, should we pass on to Pita to introduce himself as well? Yeah, kia ora whānau.
Kia koe, Pita. You're just on mute, bro. Can't hear you.
Can we have a little bit of wait music, perhaps a little bit of humming? Dun, 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 dun.
Okay, so the mic's not working, but Pita Pirahi is one of our kaitiaki umanga business advisors as well. I feel like we're missing someone tonight on the Poari. Yes, we are missing someone. Matua Vaughan Winiata, Ngāti Raukawa ki te tonga. I've just introduced him for everyone in his absence. I'll hand it over to you, Johnny or Vern, just to do some housekeeping before we kick into it. Kia ora.
Yep, cool. Yeah, kia ora. So for those of you that are new to this Poari session, just want to inform you guys how to engage throughout the session. So I'm just going to share my screen. Sorry, bear with me, whānau. There we go. Cool. So if we have a look on the right hand corner, there's a chat bubble. You can go into there, enter any questions. If you want to ask a question, have any questions of our advisors or of our guest Mana, then feel free to jump in there. If you want to, there's some emojis here if you want to interact, or if you resonate with something that's said. You can also put your hand up here, and that will highlight your screen, and the facilitator will come around and give you some time to record it all. Also, this session will be recorded. So if you have any issues with that, then yeah, please let us know. Otherwise, yeah, the footage will be used for for promotional efforts and on our socials. So and you can turn off your camera and microphone here. So let's get into the section. Kia ora.
Cool, kia ora, Johnny. And no mahara mai mana. I'm going to hand the floor over to you, bro. Ka koe.
Kia ora koutou. Tuatai mihi atu kia koutou katoa, ngā rangatira mā ki rongo i te Poari, HTK, ngā rangatira mā no reira he mihi atu kia koutou. Mana Newton toku ingoa, ki te taho toku pāpa, ngā pui me parihaka, me ki te taho toku māma, no te iwi o Ngāti Tahu, Ngāti Whaua me Te Arawa Waka. No reira, tērā taku whakapapa. And I always say with my whakapapa that my dad's ngāpui and my mum is Te Arawa. So anyone that knows the ngāpui and Te Arawa relationship, it proves that you can get along every now and then, because I've got two other brothers as well. But my mum and dad are divorced, so it does show that sometimes it doesn't last, that ngāpui Te Arawa relationship. So, but yeah, awesome to be on here, and awesome to be able to share some whakaro about Mātauranga Māori within business, and just wanted to mihi to my brother-in-law, Tuari. Amazing reason why I'm on here today is because he asked me and I'm scared of him, so no. No, but definitely got a huge amount of respect for Tuari, and he's with my sister, and funny story that we're twins, but we're 5 months apart. We share one side of the whakapapa, but we don't share the other side of the whakapapa. So, but it's awesome to be able to kōrero with you fellas, and that's a cool thing about being from Te Ao Māori. We come warts and all, everything all together. So, but yeah, a little bit of background about me. My background, I'm a Māori boy from the pā, really. I'm born and raised in Neparo, and spent most of my childhood there. Went to Rotorua Boys High School. If you don't know where Reparo is, a fellow called Sam Kane's from there. He's probably the second most famous fellow from there. I must be one of the first most famous fellas, but so that's where I'm born and raised from. But did my degree in accounting and business studies. Went over to Hawaii, married a Hawaiian girl. We spent some time in Utah, did my masters up there in Utah. Had my first 3 children born in Hawaii, or in the States, and then came back home about 10 years ago. Came back for 2 years on a secondment, and I've been here for 10 now. So my visa, my green card's been stamped by my wife as an overstayer. So, but we've got 3 more kids, so I've got 6 in total. And I always tell people that we've got so many kids because my nanny said we've got a small iwi, so I've got to continue to repopulate. So I've done my job. I've finished now. Got my 6 tamariki, so that's us. But yeah, anyway, for tonight, what I wanted to have a bit of a kōrero around, and is a bit of a kaupapa about Mātauranga Māori within business organisations, and just have a bit of a kōrero about that. And the first thing I wanted to do is just literally mihi to everybody within Māori business. Now, I read an article just this morning about 20-odd thousand businesses that have deregistered from the Companies Office in the last 8 months. So it's hard out there to be in business and to be able to operate still. And so to everybody that's in business, just a huge mihi to you all, because it's really difficult times, and a lot of our whānau, a lot of our friends, they're just not making it right now because of the environment that we're in. So just a huge mihi to everybody. Keep mahiing hard, keep doing what we do. But what I really wanted to talk about is the sort of huge monumental shift, I believe, that we're seeing in Aotearoa around, and it's sort of like a trend shift that I believe as Māori businesses, it's something that we could be aligning to and getting our businesses aligned to. So obviously we're dealing with COVID, but it's not necessarily COVID, but it's all the other issues that COVID has highlighted and alleviated, and sort of put a lot of pressure on, such as housing issues, poverty, lack of jobs, poor conditions, and things like that. And based on that, as a lot of you know, there's a budget from the government brought out last year where they said that they're going to quantitatively ease or spend money in the environment and our economy up to about $50 billion. Now, whether we like that or not, whether we choose to support the spend of $50 billion or not, it's coming. It's going to come to the economy. And I believe there's a massive opportunity for us as Māori to align ourselves, because I think that one of the worst things that we could ever happen is that for that $50 billion to be privatised, commercialised, and go into the backs of people's pockets. What we need to do for Māori is ensure that that pūtea that's driven from the government just circulates and circulates and circulates around the economy as many times as we possibly can, to ensure that us as Māori get as much opportunities to grow from that pūtea that comes through. So where that pūtea, it should be focused on real simple kaupapa, such as lifting vulnerable people, the states of vulnerable people. It should be focused on things like changing our environment, focusing on climate change and the environmental issues that we've got. Things such as uplifting people and jobs and different opportunities. And if we, and one of the beautiful things that I think that we have as Māori is that a lot of the people that this pūtea, or where the government, or where we're trying to as a country are trying to help, are us and our whānau and our marae and our hapu and our iwi. And us as businesses, well, especially yourself as businesses, you're almost like a catalyst to be able to provide that opportunity to help our economy grow and to highlight where Māoridom is. And so for me, there's a massive opportunity within Mātauranga Māori, and we don't have to look too much beyond just our basic values. And so we all talk about the tangas and the whanaunga tangas and the Manaki tangas and the pononga, and these are beautiful kaupapa, these are beautiful values. And I think right now we've got this awesome opportunity as Māori that the economy, our world, the environmental issues are in such a bad state that it's almost an opportunity to kind of say, I told you so, and we can help fix that, but you have to trust in us. And why do we say it's in such a bad state and you've got it wrong for so long? It's really quite simple. Let the statistics speak for themselves. But we're sick of seeing those negative statistics over and over and over again. We're quite educated, and you can either conclude one way or the other that either the people are broken or the system is broken. And I fail to believe that it's our people that are broken. I believe it's the system that's broken. So for me, I think there's a massive opportunity for us to focus on Mātauranga Māori and our values, and actually bring them to economic life and bring them to commercial reality, and have a really well-balanced model where we focus on our values, focus on these opportunities where Māori are being recognised for those values, and highlight and use those values to help to alleviate and to relieve some of the pressure that we are having within our economy. And I am taking a very top-down approach, and I know that we're talking with SMEs right now, but I also believe that it's a trend. And if you're a smart business person, you look at trends and you say, how do I align myself with trends? And if you can't see Mātauranga Māori as a trend that's currently here and will continue to grow and become stronger over the next 5 to 10 years, wake up, it's there, it's definitely there, and there's a massive opportunity for us to align with that. So within, one of the real interesting things with sort of the economy, the way that it is that it's screaming for, we can pretty much say that commercialization, the way that it's been done over the last however many years, it just hasn't worked for us as a people, it hasn't worked for us as a country. And it's pretty evident in the fact that a significant amount of resources are held by such a small amount of people. That's a sure sign in society that we've got it wrong. Because if we got it right, then all of those resources would be spread more evenly across lots and lots of people. So we use real simple values such as whanaungatanga, but whanaungatanga is a really nice word, but what we got to do is, how does that value come to life, right? So whanaungatanga, when we meet with different groups, our Pākehā colleagues and government groups and things like that, it's a real simple focus on the fact that we're here to support our community, and that we're really good as whānau, using that whānau connection to get the right skill sets that we need to get the job done. I'm an accountant by trade, and it's funny because most Māori look and go, oh, accountants, you do taxes, eh? And I actually don't know how to do taxes. I suck at taxes. I pay somebody else to do my taxes. When I was a partner at Deloitte, My whānau used to come up to me all the time at Deloitte. I had one uncle I felt so stink because he'd come in and he'd go, oh, here's a couple $100, boy, can you do my taxes? I had to pay like this other accountant to go and do his taxes for him. I couldn't put him through Deloitte. Deloitte cost too much. I had to pay another accountant down the road like $1,000 to do my uncle's taxes because I couldn't do them, and he thought I could do them because my dad told him, oh, my boy will do your taxes because that's what dads do, right? And my dad told him, oh, my boy will do your taxes, and next minute here I am getting all my cousins and uncles and stuff like that, all their taxes. Can you help us out? Why do we do that? Because we use whanaungatanga. It's real, it's alive, it's within our business. We look at our networks and our opportunities and we go, gee, there's the kazi, he can help me out. They can dig a ditch, he can build a fence, they can do this, they can do that. We are masters at using whanaungatanga within our businesses, and it's time that we highlight whanaungatanga. Pononga, such a strong value, right? Pononga, everybody knows that, being true and right. What's the underlying kaupapa for Māori? All of us are like, never mind the laws and the rules. I want to be able to walk on my marae and hold my head up high. You show me another standard of pononga that lives out there, where each and every one of us is born inherently within us to say, hey, I've got to do right, not just by myself, but by my marae, my hapu, my iwi, my people, because at the end of the day, I'm going back to my marae in some way, shape or form. And if I'm not invited back there through the front door, then me as a person, I'm not tika within myself. So I'll hold myself up to that standard. You find that in Te Ture, in the laws anywhere about pononga. So how we can demonstrate that to our colleagues or to people around us by simply saying, you've got a safe pair of hands in me, because you can trust in me and you can rely on me. If you give me some of that putia to help alleviate some of these economic stresses around, I'll do a good job, because it's not just I'm helping my own people, and it's not just the financial need that I'm trying to support. It's my own integrity to be able to stand and act and be active on my own marae. So punonga is a huge value within Mātauranga Māori that we can use really quite practically. The other kaupapa here I've written down is simply Manaki. Manaki's a massive kaupapa, it's huge, but we all know what Manaki means, but in a business sense, it's simply the fact that, you know, as soon as we get success as Māori, what do we do? We don't dream of a big whare on the top of the hill. If that whare is empty and there's not other whare around us and a shanty shack beside us with uncle beside you and a car out the back and barking dogs over there, it's not a whare to us because we're by ourselves. We think of community-based whare. So simple concept of Manaki is that when we create our businesses, a big kaupapa of the businesses that we create is how do we create jobs and opportunities. I've got a kazi, he works on one of our farms over in Tauhara, and he's trying to get his own family business established and trying to grow into becoming a share milker and things like that. And he's still trying to get this business of his off the ground. And the whole time he's coming to us going, how can I put some of my profits into a cadetship and help grow the next generation? The fella's trying to put kai on his own table, and at the same time he's trying to think about, how do I support the next generation of rangatahi coming through? Why? Because me and him grew up in Neparo, and when we grew up in Neparo, we were either going to milk cows or work in the forestry, and that was it. And he found a business opportunity within one of those two, and now he wants to open that up for the next generation so they can see it as well. The Manaki is just inherently in us. If you give us this putia and we're trying to focus on alleviating some of these economic issues and some of these problems that our whānau are focused on, we're not going to take that profit and just put it in our back pocket. We're going to take that profit and manaki the community that we're part of. The other kaupapa I want to talk about is tino rangatiratanga. There's this real big fear within business that we work with, that what we're trying to do is take over the profits, and almost a fear of do what has happened to us, do that to other cultures, to alienate them and to separate them. And I completely disagree with that. I believe tino rangatiratanga and mana motuhake are alive and well within our business models. And they, all it is that we're trying to stand on our own 2 feet, right? We've gone through years and years of grievance, and the government thinks, oh, here's a payout, you're all good now. But real overcoming of grievance is being able to stand there one day and saying, I've done it, I've achieved it, and I've helped my people to achieve it as well. It's tino rangatiratanga, standing on our own mana motuhake, on our own whenua, and saying we've cracked it, we've done it, and we did it on our own, and look at us, we're going forward. And to do that, we're not saying we can't take other people with us. it's a mana enhancing kaupapa mana motuhake in tino rangatiratanga. It's not a whakaiti or mana whakaiti kōrero, because you can't lift yourself up by just stepping on other people. And I think that's where it's a value that we have within Māoridom that is just so strong. But it's how do you actually play that into your actual business. A big part of tino rangatiratanga that each and every one of you as business owners have inherently in you is your ability to grow the economic capability of the people that are part of you. You're a business owner because maybe not because you got an accounting degree or anything like that, because you strongly believe in the economic education that you're going through and that you can help others to do it as well. So it's about mana motuhake, tino rangatiratanga. The next kaupapa I wanted to talk about is just te taia. Man, if there's a time when our world needs kaupapa Māori or Mātauranga Māori, it is right now, with where we are with climate change, with where we are with te taia, with where we are with the overuse of wai and the pollution of our wai, with where we are with the smashing of our whenua and the overuse of our taonga and geothermal resources and different things like that. And there is right now that within businesses, we need a new look at the way that we operate. And it's inherently within us as all of us, because our nannies and karaua have taught us these basic principles of looking after papatūānuku and rangi. It's within us. I went to a recent conference. It was a geothermal conference, and I spoke there. And they're talking about how we can operate better and not do such a bad job at looking after our reservoirs. And the whole time I spoke to them around Mātauranga Māori, and I shared the example that me as I'm like you, bro, I'm 21 years old as well, but me it's 21, but maybe 39 years old. At the age of 39, at the age of 32, I had never stepped foot on the geothermal reservoirs that surround my whenua. And there's about 6 of them. And I said, 150 years ago, our tupuna lived on every single one of these geothermal reservoirs. So I would, and we were the most advanced civilization in the use of geothermal resources. We had to be, because we lived on it, we cooked it, we used it for heat, we used it for bathing, we used it for everything. It was a full part of our life. So within 150 years, you've taken us from being completely connected and living and growing and being born on this taonga that's been passed down from generation to generation, to me being the age of 32 before I stepped foot on one of the reservoirs. So what a shame. What a shame if you'd taken us along this journey, and now you come to us going, how can we work together to figure out how we look after te taia properly? And I'm sitting there going, I'll only say this once, but I told you so. Now let's figure out how to solve the problem. Because we've been screaming it for years and years and years. And it's not until other cultures and other people have actually said, hey, these are genuine problems, and we've really got to fix these because look what we're doing to our world, that our Māori, simple Māori values, really, really simple Māori values that have been taught to us from our marae and our hapu and our pā and our people, actually carry a lot of mana in today's, in the situation that we find ourselves in today. So, why now? Like, Mātauranga Māori is not a new kaupapa, right? Mātauranga Māori's been around for ages, and these values that we talk about, they're not new values. They're values that we've all had for such a long time. And I think for me that the big thing of why now, it came to 2018 when New Zealand entered the UN agreement of Indigenous nations, that they would acknowledge Indigenous nations and their rights and the ability for Indigenous nations to be able to have more rights within their own countries. And no one really knows what that means, but I know it's positive. It's positive as. And you know, when we don't know what it means, it's a good opportunity for us to pipe up and tell people what it means, because there's no standard. So who cares? We make the standard. We say what we think it means. So it's a really good opportunity for us to start to establish that what does it mean to be Māori? What does it mean to have Mātauranga Māori within a business? And how important is it to not leverage, but to lean on those values and incorporate those values in our everyday business mahi, so that we can focus on some of those economic issues and cultural issues and poverty issues that we have right now. So another major reason why now is because, again, I sort of mentioned before, there's just so many negative statistics about Māori, and I think every single one of us is sick of hearing another negative statistic. And many of our businesses, we generate them to help to reverse those negative statistics, because we're just sick of hearing them over and over again. So we're sitting there going, okay, we'll take these things into our own hands. So now there's been a natural alignment between those negative statistics and money going towards vulnerable situations. And so who's the catalyst to help get that funding or that pūtea down to the most needed individuals? Māori. It's people from the community where the vulnerable people are. And who are the most suited, I believe, is Māori businesses, because we know we can strike a really good balance between the economic reality and the social needs of our people. And that there is worth gold in our current environment because of where we are. That there is bankable all the way. Talking about that, we're about to have, we've been going through different rounds with like the Reserve Bank and with ANZ and other banks on a social Indigenous based bond. I know that might sound like it's not much, but they actually acknowledge social good, such as like you might have heard things like green bonds out there, but to acknowledge social good and Indigenous and an Indigenous focus within an institution such as the Reserve Bank or the major banks. If you think about it, 20 years ago as Māori, we couldn't even get a loan, right? We couldn't even get a loan from the bank. And now in 20 years' time, we're in a situation, an environment where banks are going, hey, should we be giving discounts in our interest rates to Māori to help them so that they can grow their businesses and grow their lands and grow their opportunities and things like that? And for me, that's quite phenomenal that we've had that change, and it's been through such wise and good, strong business leaders for so many years to actually create those opportunities where, where we've actually turned it around. Even with me, I'm not going to lie to you, I became a partner at Deloitte after 8 years. Now, the normal pathway is about 15 to become a partner at Deloitte. I became a partner at 8 years, one, because I'm so good looking and I've got the gift of the gab. No, had nothing to do with that. If you can see me, I'm a pretty ugly looking fellow, but had nothing to do with that. It was all because what happened with businesses, corporate businesses, they started to wake up in 2010 and say, hey, we've got to find out about these Māori people and incorporate Māoridom, because there's lots of money coming into the Māori economy. So we've got to try and work on that. And that's a trend that's happening. So we've got to invest in that. So how did I get a partnership? I said, hey, look around. There's about 4 Māoris that work in a place like Deloitte. I've got a pretty good chance. So it's about stuff like that. If there's a trend that's happening, and for us in our businesses, I just strongly believe we've got to align ourselves to the major problems that we know. We know what those problems are because our cousins have them, our brothers have them, our sister. Well, actually, not my sister. She's well, but our whānau have the problems. We know what the problems are. We don't have to look far. What we do have to do, though, is try and put ourselves in the middle as the catalyst to how do we solve those problems, and then how can we utilize, and then how can we alleviate the government or the country's issue by saying, hey, I've got the solution. Come and put your money into my business because I'm focused on creating new job opportunities, because I focus on Manaki. Hey, come put your money into my business because I'm focused on education and development, because I'm about tino rangatira and I don't want the next generation to grow up thinking that they can only work in the dairy factory or work in the bush. I want them to have all these different opportunities to come and support me because I've walked through that lifestyle. I've been through that, and I want to change that for the next generation. And there's massive opportunities for the Māori in that area. The other kaupapa that we're really good at being with Māori, and all of you probably do this within your businesses, is just focusing on your why and just nailing your why, because they're just so pure, and you can't really replicate that in any other cultural business. It's just if was your why. But the last thing I just wanted to talk on real quickly is just, you might be sitting there going, well, frick, this all sounds great, but what does it actually mean? Like, how do I get an opportunity to grow my business in this? One of the first focus areas, the low-hanging fruit, or the easy opportunities. It's around social procurement. So we've heard these words whispered through Nanaia and different places like that. 5% of the budget, te mea. Social procurement is our opportunity to put our hand up in Māori business and say, hey, I can take on those contracts. I can win that work. I can deliver on it because I know how to. What that will mean is probably conversations with iwi, because social procurement comes through Crown to iwi relationship, not necessarily Crown to a private business relationship. But working with iwi, working collectively, ko tahitanga, will create massive opportunities around social procurement. There is huge opportunities right now around Māori rights, RMA, resources, taonga toko iho. There's a huge review right now going on with just the RMA process. And that's a massive competitive advantage for us if we're in any businesses that to deal with natural resources. It's just a massive competitive advantage. I've talked about climate change, and so I won't go on about that. But even though I'm not that good myself, I got told this one time by one of my work colleagues. That she goes, "You really care about climate change?" And I went, "Yep." She's a Paka, not. She goes to me, "You really care about climate change?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she goes, "You know your biggest impact on climate change?" And I went, "Oh, probably like this, my car or something like that." And she's like, "Now you've got 6 kids. You shouldn't have had 6 kids." And I was like, "Oh, but how do I balance? You know, I'm poor and climate change, my father. Oh no." But anyway, deeply, passionately, climate change is a focus area right now. And I talked about this earlier, but the more you know about the negative statistics of what's going on, instead of using that as a crutch anymore, because it's over. We can't allow society to use that as a crutch. When I say society, I'm saying like government or different groups like that. We've got to look at those negative statistics and say, this is our opportunity to turn them. Because if in 25 years' time, we still got the same negative statistics, we'll all be sitting here. At that stage, I'll be like maybe 45 because I'm so young right now. But we'll be all sitting here old as going, "Wow, we got it wrong. We got it wrong again." Why? Because we're still there. We're still in that negative situation. So, but yeah, anyways, that's sort of my korero. It's not. It really is from a macro level down. It's really focused on trend, and the trend being a massive focus on the values and the culture that we have as Māori. And for you in business, all I'd say is just, I know every one of you in Māori business definitely has these values in you, in your business. Just wear them loudly and proudly. Just put them in the forefront of what you do. Just be bold as, because if there's anything that businesses need in Aotearoa right now, it is ikanga and values that we hold, and the kaupapa that each and every one of you would have anyway. So, but yeah, anyway, I'll shut up now. But kia ora whānau.
Mihi mana. There are some awesome kōrero, bro. Really awesome, man. Touched on there's a few things that I'd like to touch on from your kōrero. Climate change is also an interesting one. I'm big on climate change, but I've got a V8, and so I need to balance. Do I get rid of the V8 or I plant more trees? And so we plant more trees, and so maintenance around the house has gone up. And so that's how I balance climate change. But that's awesome, bro. One thing I just wanted to circle back, bro, to your kōrero around values. And I think it's an important kōrero, bro, because values drives a lot of businesses. So we say we're a values-led organisation, HTK, and we try and enact them as much as we can, and we try and make it business as usual. And one of the biggest risks to our business is not adhering to our values. But what I wanted to circle back on, bro, is how do businesses, how do businesses, in your opinion, enact their values? And when we talk about the tangas, there's a lot of Māori businesses, especially that have the tangas. They talk about the tangas, and big Māori organisations, and even probably some of our iwi. They go on about it, but sometimes you don't actually see it see the sweat or see it actually on the ground. What's your thoughts, Brian? And how do you think Māori should actually stay true to enacting their values or the tangas that you talk about?
Yeah, bro, it's a really good partai. So we almost have to like change the framework of the way that we consider success within our businesses, eh? And I know it's easy saying that from a top level down, but we've really got to almost change the way that we measure, because a lot of things, it's based on what we measure is what success is, right? So what do we all have to do every year? We've got to do an IRD statement, we've got to do a tax return, we've got to do a financial statement, and that becomes like the most important thing that we've got to do, otherwise our businesses will get shut down. But why don't we hold ourselves to similar accountability when it comes to the values or to the other areas, our social, economic, cultural, and I'm not just talking about quadruple bottom line measuring, I'm actually talking about sort of holistically looking at everything that we do and go, is this a well-balanced decision for all of my values? Because a lot of times, we look at those the well-balanced decision and we go, and we fall into the trap of, the Western world, the economic becomes like the most significant one, and then everything else is like, it's a nice tick, and I do it myself. We have to challenge ourselves all the time and say, no, we actually have to look at this quite holistically. We have to look at like, we invested into a business and far out. So even though I don't have a whole lot of SMEs, a lot of the groups that I work with, we're just a combination of SMEs. Just got a whole bunch of little ones all sort of stacked up to be a decent sized portfolio. But we invested in a business and they're not going that well, to be honest with you. But what they are is that they're a rechargery station with electric bikes throughout the country. And so we provide free rechargery stations because what we believe in is that people will, we need to reduce carbon emissions. And the easiest way for us to do that is to jump on bikes. And fellas like myself, I don't like to pedal on a bike, so I'll jump on an electric bike any day. But chuck me on a mountain bike, bro, all over this. KFC box doesn't fit in my arm. But anyways, we jumped into the business. The business isn't going that well. We just have to stick to our values, and because we believe it, and we genuinely believe that it's right for the country, we genuinely believe it's right for the environment or right for our cultural values, we're backing it. And here we are, still just driving down this journey. Now, might look in 2 years' time and go, that was the stupidest thing that we could have ever done financially, but I know I'm not wrong when it comes to the values. I know I'm not wrong when it comes to the climate change and the impact of climate of fossil fuels and vehicle driving. I know that I'm not wrong when it comes to public transport issues and the clogging of cities and towns and stuff like that because of overuse of traffic and pedestrianised areas and stuff like that. Those are all values that are 100% tika, and we might be blind, but we're sticking to the values, even though economically it's not turning a profit right now. It is what it is.
Cool.
And that's when you need partners as well. Not saying that we're investing right now, but if you do have a good business, come here to chat.
Mihi, bro. Thank you for that, and thank you for that cordial. I'm going to open up to Uncle Pete. Over to you.
Yeah, great words, Mana. Great words. It's just interesting. You lived overseas, and I'm always amused. I've lived overseas as well. That Kiwis overseas are very well respected for their work ethic, their honesty, trustworthiness, and getting the job done. And having lived overseas for a number of years, I come back and I don't feel that same trust or honesty within local businesses. Do you see that personally?
Yeah, I do actually. I see. I see just within local businesses, it's hard to try. It kind of goes back to your point about the question about values as well, right? Is that we don't necessarily trust in people. We trust in values and what we feel and what we believe and what we think. We're emotional people, right? We invest in what we believe in and what we feel in. And so when you can't feel that value and you can't feel those values reciprocated, that's what drives to sort of like the lack of trust. I believe anyway, there's sort of like this trust thing of you're trying to rip me off, you're trying to just take as much money from me as possible, right? And you're not wearing those values in the forefront. And every now and then you find these amazing businesses that just are riddled with values, and you're just like, that's the one I'm going to stick with. But I totally agree with you, Peter. It's sort of on the ground, there's just this massive distrust, and I think that distrust comes from putting that one po, which is your commercial return, far greater than every other po at the end of the day. And you know, you can say what you want when someone walks into your business, but they feel it more than they hear it. Especially us as Māori, right? We live by our emotions. So.
That's a good point. And I worked for an international company. We had some pretty good values, and one of them was we like what we do. And as our CEO used to say, it's not we do what we like. We like what we do.
It's a good whakaaro, yeah.
Yeah. And the other one he had was we keep our promises externally and internally. Yeah. And it's part of it. So you can have a facade or outward appearance of having tremendous values and culture, but if you don't demonstrate that, or your behaviors externally and internally don't match, I think there's a real disconnect in your organization.
I couldn't agree with you more. I've got a couple of my mates, they're senior members here in our team, and they're talking about outwards appearance versus internal values. These fools turn up to like interviews or big meetings with big corporates with shorts and like t-shirts on and jandals and stuff like that. So from an outwards appearance look, I'm sitting there going, holy shit, bro, we're a
was that Tauhara? Oh, sorry, just
but you know, as soon as they start rapping and they start talking just full of values, and they just blow corporates out of the water because it's just so value filled and it's so like tika as well, that it just was completely blows them off guard, to be honest. And it's actually an advantage to us because they don't know how to respond to that, right? They've got this hoary Māori fella in front of them with shorts on, just like busting out all of this mean ass kaupapa on them. It's actually really, really awesome.
Awesome, bro. Thanks, Uncle Pete. I'm going to hand it over to Tuari. You're wanting to say something. And we love your shirt, by the way. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, well, I mean, I see that everyone's taken Mana's example and worn shorts and t-shirts. I'm waiting for this amazing Mātauranga to come springing out, but you know, I mean, look at Vern. I mean, he's got, you know, he's got some reggae thing going on there, which I think is a wonderful motif. Kia ora, Vern. I guess for me, one of the things that really resonates is Mātauranga Māori and tikanga Māori used in a pragmatic way. You know, people, Mātauranga Māori, to a large extent, to many people is this terrible wall of mystery, specifically to our own people, and it becomes this impregnable wall of tapu stuff that no one wants to, I guess, embrace. And a lot of people don't know how to do it. So it's been really refreshing to hear you talk about Mātauranga Māori in a pragmatic sense. So I just want to ask you this question. So you have a magic wand. You've been, you have been. We've waved that magic wand and given you the resources to do it. In what way, you know, in an ideal world, would you demonstrate, role model, and employ the pragmatic approach to Mātauranga Māori as an example to Māori businesses?
Beautiful, bro. I've thought about this question heaps of times, which is kind of weird, actually. But honestly, bro, I totally believe I'd flip the commercial model on its head and turn them into social enterprises. And social enterprises where they're focused on reinvesting back into the kaupapa that the resource or the funding was intended for. So we've started it here within within Tauhara where I work. So, for example, you know, we went out and we do lunches in schools for kids. So tourism comes, right? COVID comes, boom, smashes all of our tourism ventures out of the water. Can't do anything now because we're focused on 98% international, so 2% domestic. They're all up in Auckland, so they can't come and visit us either. So we're sitting here with some of our businesses going, how do we flip that on its head? We go out, turn our kitchens into lunches for schools. We go and pick up a whole bunch of lunches and schools contracts. Why? Not for the purpose of making a huge amount of profit, so that we can reinvest those profits into kaumātua or vulnerable kaupaks over the summer holidays, so that they've got kai over Christmas time. Then what we do is we start looking at vertical integration chains and say, hey, look, as Māori, we own a lot of land. We provide a lot of kai into this package. why don't we then sort of vertically integrate back into the farms that we're part of, or the relationships that we have there, and start to vertically integrate with the same kaupapa, with a margin of that recapitalised back into the kaupapa of pai. Then we're providing lunches in schools, so we sit there and we go, okay, ka pai, let's do a Mātauranga Māori educational route in the school, so that tamariki sitting there is not going, gee, I'll get a free lunch every day. They actually learn the mātauranga of where their kai came from, so that they can see the beginning of their kai into the end, and then they create this kind of circular economy focused on kai. Because why? Because kai is such a massive kaupapa for us as Māori, and it always has been. That's why nearly every word that's got significance has got the word kai in it somewhere, or kai is such a significant word for us as Māori, and I prove that every single day with my belly that I walk around with. But so for me, anyway, what I'd be looking at doing is flipping a whole bunch of the commercial models on their head and having them focused on social enterprise, where the commercial return and the margin and is then reinvested back into the vertical integration of that business chain. It's reinvested back into the vulnerable situations and overcoming vulnerability within that need, whether you're talking power, whether you're talking kai, whether you're talking any of our industries. And then from there, then you kind of have these beacons of lights where people are attracted to for training, job development, career development. Because one of the big issues that we have, and it kind of goes to your point before, Pete, is around within New Zealand, we're so small, and what we do is the job of the New Zealand vertical chain is to get as much margin as you can from the next person and minimize your costs. And that's what you do, right? You charge margin up and minimize down, and everybody's in the same game. And we're so damn small that you could actually line up all of those businesses and go, why don't we just become one streamlined margin and start competing with premium products in the international market? So I know I was rambling a little bit here, but if you just gave me the wand, I would literally start flipping these commercial models on their head, integrate them from top to bottom of what the industry is, start to let them become beacons of light for training, have a huge amount of kotahitanga in there, and have the profits go back to the social outcome or the social enterprise of what we're trying to achieve with that kaupapa.
Awesome, man. That's a beautiful kōrero, and yeah, I'm sort of on your waka around social enterprise. Having purpose-driven businesses. I think the model of the past around bottom line driven is starting to disappear. So that's some awesome kōrero. I just want to touch on one point, bro, and it was around Māori businesses, and especially you talked about the geothermal Māori businesses, and my whānau, one of my marae is Mokai, and so we're part of Tuarupaki, and we don't really show our hand too much or pop our head up. But I wanted to talk about tall poppy syndrome, bro, in Māoridom. And my papa always talked to me about these two buckets of eels. There's the one eels where the eels jump out and they slither away. And then there's the other bucket, bro, where the eels try and get up, but they keep banging each other down. So, and those are the Māori eels that jump out and they can't get out of the bucket because they keep banging each other's down. And so I just want to probably just really pick your brain on what your thoughts are on tall poppy syndrome, and how do we stop our own Māori from banging each other down, because we've got some shining light, some Māori businesses that are global businesses, for example. But there's also a lot of Māori businesses that can't really just get out because our own people are smashing them down. What's your whakaaro, bro?
So, bro, the tall poppy syndrome is as alive and well as it ever has been and ever will be, bro. Look, I'm not saying I've got a silver bullet to it, bro, and we don't get it right either. We find it hard to sort of talk about ourselves as Māori, right? But we find it really easy to talk about our kaupapa. So I'll never sit here and say to you, oh, Tauhara's done this, and this, and this, and this. But I'll sit here and say, we'll do everything we can to support our whānau. We'll look after our whenua, and we'll support our resources. We'll look after our iwi, our marae. We'll do everything that we can to support those things. And so what that does is that puts the kaupapa over the success, because the success is nothing, right? Because the success is just a vehicle. Like having financial resources, literally a vehicle to achieve something else, and it's just one part of the equation. And then what we're trying to achieve is the kaupapa. And like, you know, literally, you could have all the money in the world right now, and we won't solve a lot of the issues that we have, right? Because it's just one component of the resources that we need in the vehicle to achieve the outcome, and the outcome is the kaupapa. We all want to achieve that massive kaupapa, and if you talk about that kaupapa all day long, then that gives you a right to be as successful as you damn well please, because you need to be successful, because the kaupapa that you're trying to attack is this freaking monster. And if somebody sits there and goes, you're a dick because you're succeeding really well, what they're really saying is, you're a dick because you support that kaupapa hati. And who's going to do that, bro? You know, and you got to put it in a way and phrase it in a way. It's like, nah, it's not about me and my success. It's about the success of this kaupapa. And if this kaupapa is successful, then it gives a license for other Māoris to be successful, because it's the kaupapa that needs to survive. Frick me, I'll come and go, right? You'll come and go. We'll all come and go. But these kaupapa need to be hugely successful. Otherwise, next generations will struggle. So I know that's a little bit sort of idealistic, but not a silver bullet, bro. But that's just some of the whakaaro that I've seen and learnt out there.
Bye, bro. Thanks for sharing your whakaaro. Tuari, ka koe, bro.
Hey, kia ora, bro. That's awesome. Thanks, Ren. Just a couple of things on what you're talking about, mana, is for me, in terms of education and in health, you see a lot of our Māori providers, they've intentionally been brought up in this divide and conquer kind of mentality, where they've thrown a lump of meat into the middle, and all these providers, all these people that are on the same kaupapa, on the same waka, are forced to almost cut each other's throat to try and get that. I think we won't get it. We won't see an ending to the tall poppy syndrome until we realise, as you and Ren and Pete have been talking about, we are actually all on the same kaupapa, and our interest is in a collective success, collective gains. So what happens is you get these people who are in these, that have this mindset, and that's always kind of existed. They're taking that competitive, we've got to get everything we can while we can, I guess, the poor, needy mentality into these realms. And then they're getting into these positions in these Māori organisations, starting a Māori business. But what they're doing is they're just doing a brown version of, I guess, a tauiwi ideal. And it's frightening to me when you're talking about it that it exists still. I'd be interested to hear about the ways in which you personally have kind of made the decision to not emulate that, to proliferate those sort of things.
Yeah, bro. So I've got a Hawaiian missus, and she spends all my money, so I'm poor ass, bro. Like, doesn't matter how much money I've got, I'm broke as a joke all the time. So there's like, I'm not successful ever because I'm always poor. No. But just on that whole health side, bro, you couldn't be any more true. I'm on a board in Te Puke. It's called Paitiri Trust. It's the Māori Development Organisation. The Bay of Plenty in the area that we service is around about 21% Māori, and there's about 3% Māori specific targeted funding. So here we are with these other different Māori providers, all trying to scrap over the 3% of Māori specific funding, when realistically our population represents 21% of the population. So here we are fighting over the crumbs when we sort of should be sitting there looking at the table and saying, actually, we own the table, not the crumbs. Me personally, bro, I don't know. I come from a real humble iwi, bro. So even being part of Tauhara, it's a humble people. Like, our nannies in Karawa we're just so, like, they didn't want anything. Even now, like, even with the successes that we have, lots of times we talk to our nanny in Karawa and they're like, hey, we don't want this putia, give it to our moko, give it to our next generation, help support them. So, I mean, I almost have a social license every day from our whānau to go out there and say, how much more good can we do? How much more support can we give to whānau? How much more jobs can we create in the community? So, for me personally, within all the different businesses that I'm part of, it's actually really easy to put kaupapa Māori first. Another group that I'm a part of, Ngāti Manawa in Murupara, for those that might have Ngāti Manawa whakapapa, they're Hāti. And they had a sawmill that was about to go into receivership. And we worked with the government, we poured it out, and we ended up purchasing it together for them. There was nothing good about that business, except for the 96 Māori that they employed, that whakapapa to Ngāti Manawa. So for me, in every sort of way, shape or form that we can within mahi, and within, you got to live those values in your personal life as well, just putting the kaupapa first and making sure that you just highlight your kaupapa Hāti, I guess, without going into like specific what I do for marae or anything, things like that on a personal level, but just live those values. Actually, I will tell my freaking uncle at the marae that I grew up beside, he set me up this summer, bro. He goes to me, what are you up to this summer, Neff? And I'm like, oh, nothing much, bro, just cruising around, And he's like, gee, I'll put you on the mow roster, turn up out here and you can mow the lawns for the marae every third Saturday over summer. So I'm sitting there going, you freaking prick, you me out. But, there you go. That doesn't matter, bro, if you got a tea towel at the marae, bro, or if you got the checkbook at the marae, they don't treat you any differently, brother. But, I guess just on a personal level, bro, just live it hard.
Kia ora. Kia ora, man. I know we only got a couple of minutes left. Just opening up to the whānau who are online, who may want to ask a question. Going once, going twice. Got one final question for you, bro. You talk about living over in Hawaii, and there are businesses such as Kamehameha and other sort of big, large corporations. Just quickly, bro, tell us from your view the differences, if there are differences, between some of our Māori Inc. And the likes of Kamehameha and some of those other indigenous organisations in Hawaii or even in America, bro, that you've seen.
Yeah, bro, he pātai pai. Look, our Pacific Island cousins in Hawaii, bro, they're very humble people and they love Māori and they love New Zealanders and they look at us as like a tuakana and it's not, they don't do it in an arrogant way or anything like that. They look at us as a tuakana, and one of the major reasons why, bro, is that within Aotearoa, we may be small numbers, but we might be 500,000 on 5 million, right? So or close to 1 million on 5 million. So we 15 to 20% of the population. In Hawaii, our poor Hawaiian cousins, bro, they're about 1 million on about 500 million. So their voice doesn't carry. It doesn't have a lot of, it's loud, don't get me wrong. They're very out there, but it just doesn't have as much sting because the 500 million Americans that they're part of the team of just quite frankly don't give a damn at the end of the day. So it's really, really difficult for them. And because of that, they don't have a treaty, bro. Because they don't have a treaty, they actually had an apology about 15 years or 20 years ago when Bill Clinton was in presidency. And he got up and he goes, to the Hawaiian nation, I apologize. And then he moved on. And that was it, bro. We as us, we've got a government, we've got a people that we actually, as much as we may not like it, they work with us and they're willing to work with us. So a lot of the structures that are set up over there in Hawaii are set up as tauiwi structures that Hawaiians have to live within, and they have to follow all of those federal laws that have been applied to them, which gives them very little freedom to be tino rangatiratanga. So as Tuari was talking about before with the Browning, it's no derogatory statement against them. It's more the compliance that's given to them from the federal laws. They have to live under those types of laws, so they don't have the freedom to be themselves and to create their own tino rangatiratanga. So for me, they're exactly the same people, same passion, same love, same values, everything. They're beautiful, beautiful people. They're just stuck in a structure that doesn't allow them to be them, which is extremely difficult. So yeah, kia ora.
Cool. Kia ora, bro, and yeah, thanks for that kōrero. It's very insightful. I've done a little bit of mahi with the Kamehameha crew, and a lot of synergies with our Māori businesses. and an awesome crew. But yeah, that probably time's up tonight. From our virtual party, I just wanted to thank you, bro, for coming on and sharing your knowledge and your wisdom with us. And I'll say with the wider whānau, bro, because this is, we put this up online so everyone can listen and gain that knowledge, because we're all about sharing our knowledge for the next generation and the greater, wider Māori and also business community, bro. So I just want to mihi to you, and yeah, for coming on tonight and spending some time with us. So yeah, ngā mihi kia koe. Okay, whānau, well, we'll just finish with karakia. Vaughn's not on here, so I'll just finish us off with a quick karakia, and then we can go about our night. But once again, before we close off, ngā mihi kia koe, mana, for your time tonight.
Kia ora whānau.
So me kia tau ngā manakitanga ki runga ki tēnā ki tēnō tātou. Kia mahia te hua mā kihi kia toi te kupu, toi te mana, toi te aroha, toi ngai tātou. Tūturu whakamao kia tēnā.
Tina.
Au me huie.
Tai ki.
Yeah, kia ora mana. Cheers, bro.
Kia ora whānau.
Kia ora mana.
Cheer, brother.
Me, bro.
Awesome, man.